had, on the trademark?
Yeah, it's hard to gauge the. I mean, half the teams have called, but it's hard to quantify the seriousness of it. One team put something together. It was almost laughable, to be honest with you, and then a whole lot of would you be interested in, and the response is, well, sure. I mean, depends what you have, but nothing beyond just some feelers, I would say, and the one serious one was not even worth responding to be honest with you.
Do you have two players in mind, depending on where Ottawa wants to go with that number one pick, where one goes you're very comfortable with?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out. Is you take a look at your list, and obviously sitting at number two, you're sure if you've got two guys that you like, you can get one of the two, and you hope that's the way. If that's not the case, then you maybe go down a different route and look. If we're talking, let's be open and honest. I mean, we're looking at the offensive lineman, we're looking at a center. That's a priority for us, and we'll see. In a perfect world, we hope that we like both these guys, and if Ottawa takes one, we're perfectly fine with the other. If it doesn't go that way, then now we start looking at maybe another positional need, or we start maybe talking trade a little bit more serious. So we'll cross all those bridges when we get to them.
You're still 100% confident that player can start immediately?
Well, that's the ultimate goal. As I said, I think am I confident? No, I'm confident in myself that I'd like to believe that, and that's why we're doing this process. And you draft somebody number 2 overall in the situation that we have. You expect that player to come in and compete, regardless of the position that he plays. When you draft a player that high, you sure would like them to come in and contribute right away.
So what would it take for you to then not choose by need?
Yeah. Sure. Well, I guess on that note, if we didn't think, to follow up to the question here, if we didn't think that particular player could come in and help us, then a player at another position that might not be as big a need, though, will be able to contribute. And then you're looking at maybe not a starter, maybe you're looking at could he come in and play a bunch of special teams, give you 35 snaps a game, potentially as a defensive player, and grow into that role. Those are the kind of thoughts that are always going through your mind.
But sure, that determination by now has been made whether these two play for you to start.
No, that's, as I said, that's why we're meeting with Pierre today. We'll meet with Matthias tomorrow, and that will all be sorted out. We have till the 12th to figure that out. So 13th, I guess it's 4 p.m. So we got lots of time.
But your expectation, though, is that you're only going to find these two guys, right? Laverty and Russo. Is that correct?
No, that's the two we have. That's the two we have scheduled for this week. So these guys with school and exams, it's hard to. And the agents, good Lord, the agents get involved and want to make sure. So these were the two that we have solidified, and depending on how these go, and we've got a couple feelers out to agents, and a lot of the agents are real concerned about how strenuous a workout are you going to put these guys through, and rightfully so. They're concerned about their health and well-being of these players. Is it going to hurt their draft status? So some of the guys we've reached out to the agents haven't been overly receptive to allowing them to bring them in. So it is what it is.
If I just go kind of flying way off the plan in terms of the prospects for the draft,
yep,
and see that you haven't mentioned Cole, does that mean you see him as a guy who has an NFL opportunity and maybe be able to shy about that type of a player? Yeah, without a doubt. That's part of the fact. Now, he hurt himself, too. David was at the Super Regional and did a little something to his foot, so he's not able to work out anyways. But he's in that discussion as well from the top offensive lineman, and then Duvernay Tardif to the next level, who's got even more NFL. So it's all the same stuff every year where you try to factor in interest of the players versus when are you going to see them, and that's the beauty of the Canadian draft. Is that as gray as it might seem from an outsider's point of view? Do you have a better sense because you have more information?
Yeah, without it, it's much less gray this year without the Now, in years past where you threw in all the juniors into the draft, and now you're trying to project, a junior at an NCAA school this year. Well, what's his NFL interest going to be a year from now? That is very difficult. At least, they've made it easier on the CFL teams by lining up their NFL and CFL draft year. So at least you're only looking at seniors now. And you're right. So then, the NFL draft is a week before. Most of the post-draft contracts are handed out. So we'll have a fairly good idea by our draft. For example, the guys, the Canadian kids, and their interest from the NFL as best we can, and then you use all your contacts with teams and find out interest level and things like that the best you can.
I'll get a sense of what Ottawa will do with that number one.
No idea. I mean, standard procedure, you look at the rankings and you look at the top players, and, I've been saying it all, you need a good, strong offensive line, you just keep drafting. So, conventional wisdom you'd think that they would draft an offensive lineman. There's some good defensive tackles in this draft as well, but based on their expansion draft, taking the Saskatchewan guys, that I think they're pretty set at Canadian defensive tackles. So, logic would seem that they're going to take an offensive lineman, but who knows?
The probability in your eyes that they might move that pick?
I don't know. I don't want to speak for Marcel. Who knows? As I say, depends what if somebody really wants to come up and take a certain player at number one, then I guess it's up to Ottawa to decide what can we get for this pick, and who knows? It's up to Marcel to figure out if he likes it or doesn't like it.
Is there potential options out there for getting into the second round, or moving that 20 pick, 21? Sorry.
I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess with the depth of this draft, teams are not going to be too willing to trade down. Is what I would. My comment to that would be. I don't think you're going to see teams moving out of the second round further down. I would guess.
What else are you looking for other than O-line?
Well, position by position, there's two thoughts that are going through my head. It's, who do we think we can draft and come in and help us contribute right away? But then you also want, with the Canadian players currently under contract, I use the term, who essentially are we handing jobs to, for lack of a better term, and who do we want to make sure we have competition for that? So, and you guys can look at the roster and figure out the number of Canadians at each position and say, well, that's probably that they want to make sure that they at least bring some competition in. So that's where we're looking at as well. It's the one train of thought, as I was saying, is to bring a guy in that we think can contribute and help us right away and upgrade us. But also we want to make sure we're adding some depth and make sure that the guys who are on our 42-man roster have beaten somebody out and have earned that spot is what you'd like. And that's, as I said, it doesn't happen overnight, and that's what we're trying to build, is continual depth and some competition to make sure guys earn their jobs.
Any thoughts on whether you think Coombs or Gill will be there in the third round?
100% no. Neither one of those will be there in the third round. Both of those guys will be first-round draft picks, I predict. And certainly Evan Gill. Anthony Coombs is an interesting one. He's such a good football player. Someone's going to fall in love with him, and just no matter where. But he's too good a football player to slide too far. Yeah, he's dynamite.
With that second pick, are you like the first pick seems like you're targeting offensive line. The second pick, are you targeting position?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, at that point, I predict it's going to be who can help us the most, and back to the point of if we can find a guy with that pick that can get on the roster and play 30 snaps of special teams and kind of carve out a role at his position, I think that's a realistic expectation for those next couple picks in this draft.
In the wake of minicamp, are you finished making changes to who will be coming to camp?
No, I brought just in case we had this discussion, I've got my updated roster here, and there'll still be, now we've certainly got a better feel for the talent that we have, and now it's a matter of factoring in how all that goes into our salary cap and start figuring out, the final 75 guys and maybe where we're not quite comfortable with the talent at a certain position. The scouts are out there actively looking to upgrade, and you'll see some activity of guys who are just waiting till after the draft, NFL draft potentially, or just some of these guys, rightfully so, the American guys are just right to the last minute, and you kind of give them a May 1st deadline, or you have to kind of set a deadline with the agents to say we'll for these couple of players that we really like and we think they're interested in coming to Canada and they're on our neg list and we'd like them, but we're just not going to sit and wait forever. There's got to be some sort of cutoff where we have to move on. So there's still 2 or 3 guys like that we're, we got our fingers crossed. They're going to decide that the CFL is the route to go this year, and we get them under contract in the next couple of weeks.
You went a different direction with your spring camp this year, and sort of a lot of your feedback and a lot of your comments on going that way. What about your preparations for this draft? Are you doing things in a different manner than maybe you might have last year?
No, I said when I was the assistant, I went through the process as if I was going to be making the draft picks and went through and did my due diligence and then just sort of passed along the chain of commands. But in my mind, I sort of went on my own and did my own way that I would do things, and I'm still doing it the same way. It's nice to have Mike involved heavily. We took the scouting department to the evaluation camp, so those guys, I have all the, there's a lot of information now. We have the feedback from the scouts and all their write-ups. The coaching staff have all watched the film, so it's a matter of now taking all this information from all the variety, and Mike and I, closing the door and make sure we're getting on the same page.
All had a chance to look at film of the weekend now. How much did Drew Willie struggle, and how concerned are you?
Not concerned at all. As I said, I thought Drew showed leadership. He got better as the week went along. As I said, it's just, there's 3 days of mini camp. Good nor bad, we're not getting either too high or too low based on the evaluation of the quarterbacks. Other than we were happy that all 4 of them looked competent, and we're hopefully that they're going to push each other, and the best quarterback will get out there and lead us to victory. That's what we're hoping.
So you say Drew didn't struggle?
Struggle, I'm not sure. Like, was there some incompletions? Sure. I mean, I can pull out. Marcel's got all the numbers broken down by percentile and all that stuff that I don't have at the top. But as I said, if I'm not going to stand up here and say there's concern going in. It's this. I'm reserving judgment until we get a little bit further along in the process.